Joe, Notre Dame versus Texas A&M. The Aggies go into South Bend and pull off an upset. When you recap this game, how do you see it?
Fire Chris Ash. I couldn't be any more direct. I couldn't be any more to the point. Blake, there's a lot that we can sit here and talk about, but that was an effectively executed game where they did a number of things right, but their defensive coordinator called a completely inept and illogical game plan. I said this, and I'm going to continue to hammer this home, Blake. I said this immediately following the hire, that it was a bad hire. I have spoken to, and I know enough former Rutgers players that I used to train with over the course of the summer when I was playing in college. And I used to love asking them, what do you think of Chris Ash? And not a single one of them had anything positive to say about the guy. And I think that is now reflective of how they have played in these first two games. Blake, this was one of the best secondaries in college football last year. How are they giving up 200 yards to a single receiver? How are they giving up 360 yards to an opposing quarterback? How is that happening after this game? They lost one key player, Xavier Watts, and most of their returning starters that were important playmakers came back. Blake, I saw when I watched the film the same zone coverages with a couple instances of man and some blitzes mixed in, the same zone coverages over and over again. The same crossing routes completely exposed those coverages that were ran in the gaps of those zone concepts. There were no adjustments. There was no desire to press or to encumber any of the routes that were run by these light, small, speedy receivers. They just let them cook them. Blake, they have to take play calling away from Chris Ash. It's 2 games. I don't know how much more evidence Notre Dame needs. Otherwise, they're going to lose to USC when they play them at home in a month.
Okay. That's a lot to ingest. So
I'm sorry. I'm like screaming at you, but
in reference to the game, I think that there's a couple of things here that we need to take away. In the preview, we talked about this. I get what you're saying, but I think the same can be said what you just mentioned about Tennessee and Georgia. And look, you just had some really good receivers that are just going to make plays, and you're going to have to allow that to some extent. I get what you're saying. I understand your frustration. I don't think America until last night understood how explosive that wide receiver room is for A&M. I really don't. Mario Craver and Concepcion legitimately will just tear you up. I thought that when I saw it, they tried to take away Concepcion more than they did Craver. Concepcion's not going to beat us. We're going to let Mario Craver do it. And you know what he did? Well, you should have known this is the point.
But how many times are you going to let that happen before blackening coverage or pressing him or something?
That's what I was going to get at. I think that they did a great job at sending him in motion and getting him in situations where you couldn't get your hands on him. So I think that there was a couple of things that Colin Klein did to counteract that and get them the football. Joe, the explosive plays are a problem. But if you're an A&M fan, let's talk about it. Look, man, I just think their wide receiver room is really freaking good. Notre Dame literally saw something in the beginning of this and took an early lead. The block punt that goes for a touchdown. And then you kept getting some good things going. The wheel route to Jeremiah Love, the 4th down calls, the ones that actually converted. You did some really good things offensively. I thought that Price had a fantastic game. And, Joe, I'm going to be real with you. I don't know if you don't need to find more touches for him. But I look at the situation and say, Joe, we got to have a real conversation about A&M and what they did. I just think people are brainwashed to think because of the Jimbo Fisher era that offensively they can't do what they just did. And they've done this to everybody. The receiving core that they have, along with the way that they recruited up front along their offensive line and at running back, Joe, they have weapons. They are good. And Colin Klein was in his bag. Quite frankly, I think Klein completely outcoached Chris Ash and Freeman and the staff and the game plan.
No. He be very specific here.
Okay, well, he
outcoached Chris Ash, specifically Chris Ash.
He did. I'll go there. He did. I thought when A&M was down 24-14, the way that they rallied and getting the fourth down stop when Carr should have run the football but tries to hit the check down and you get the interception. Joe, you gave them a couple of opportunities and turnovers for them to get back into the game. I'm not saying that the defense didn't play bad. I thought that the most critical mistakes that you had was when you turn the ball over twice. Now, the turnover on downs doesn't go on anybody, and it doesn't go on the box score. But the Jeremiah, how do you know on 4th and 1 what he's doing? You did it 3 times, and it happened, and you got it twice. I get it. But you did it at a time where you're allowing them to come back. The Carr interception, I mean, the only thing that you can say about that is that he's going to grow there. I thought Denbrock did a really good job in what he did. You score 40 points, you deserve to be in.
Whoa, so but Blake, this is part of the important thing to talk about with this is because you have 2 completely different coordinators who both did a bad job in week 1 against Miami. But the big difference here is that Denbrock came into this game and identified what didn't work. They weren't deliberate about getting Jeremiah Love the football. They weren't deliberate about getting Jadarian Price the football and establishing the run. They called too many RPOs. And you know what he did? He adjusted. Mid-game, he adjusted. He went with the flow of the game. And I've got Chris Ash calling the same shit that he called in the first game, and then the same concepts killing them and gashing them that they couldn't stop from a similar physical profile of a receiver. I know I'm harping on the same stuff. I know I'm not trying to take away from Texas A&M's performance because it was an awesome game by them and they finished really effectively. And like you said, they have an explosive offense that is going to cause problems for teams on their schedule. But at the end of the day, Notre Dame doesn't get better if they don't make some sort of a move here. There's a clear answer to the problem.
I'll let you have that. I'm not there yet through 2 games, and it might be you very well may be right. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm just not there yet because the reason I'm not there yet, and I know that you're going to hate this, but we're just going to have to agree to disagree. I also thought that there were execution problems. I'll just give an example. You did go into zone, but I felt like that you had no idea how to be productive in those zones because you were the number 1 team in the country last year in running man-to-man coverage. Joe, they weren't getting enough depth in some of these crossing routes. They weren't passing things off, and it's set up for big plays. And Joe, Marcel Reed went off. He also went 17 of 37. Right? Like, it's not like that he was methodically moving things. They just kept hitting big play after big play after big play on you over and over and over again. The thing that I thought that this is where I'll give you with Ash. He didn't know when that they were going to go power at him, meaning that they were going to start forcing the ball and running the ball with Le'Veon Moss. And then he would bring some guys in the box too early and they would counter instantly and then they would start hitting him. And that's where I thought that they got out coached. I want to get to the end of the game with you. The Buckner situation in the end of the game here. What are your thoughts that how you ended the game here? Because let me tell you, I mean, listen, everybody wants to put this on Buckner, and I understand it. You score 41 points, you should win.
Yeah.
You can blame him, but, I mean, things are going to happen.
I said this on my live stream on Bleacher Report after the game, and the way that I framed it was, of course, it had to be Tyler Buckner, of all people, that it comes down to. But at the same time, we can't sit here and just attack one player for a mistake. We can't go after one kid because of what went wrong, and we shouldn't. But to explain what happened, as a former college long snapper, I don't like it when quarterbacks are holders. That is a very random, specific thing that I'm sharing with you guys, and I know that a lot of people are going to say that doesn't make any sense. When you're not there for every single rep of field goal, when the specialists are working on the side, it increases the chances of little errors like that. It increases it for happening. You need to constantly drill that stuff. That's why most teams, the punter is the holder. And it looked like Buckner was unprepared and he wasn't really paying attention and he wasn't watching the ball into his hands. I mean, it's the simple way to go through it.
I mean, he had 8 other situations where he didn't botch the snap.
But it's supposed to be such a routine, simple thing that's the expectation.
I get it. I get it. I mean,
I don't want to go after the kid, and I have no intention to
hold on.
it.
You shouldn't, because you gave up 41 points.
Right. That's my point. No one should be going after him. It's more so the irony of, oh my God, Tyler Buckner, here he is. He comes back to the team. He's a part of the team again. Oh, he's going to be the team's holder. How fun, how cool. And it costs them. It costs them the game because he couldn't execute in that.
I don't think it costs you the game. I'm sorry.
Oh, wait. Hold on. I'm not saying that is the sole reason why they lost.
You lost by a point, and you
lost by a point off of something that shouldn't have happened, and it's extremely nauseating to sit here and think after everything that happened, the way that you were able to score and finish, and it felt like Notre Dame had all the momentum. That error felt like it took the air out of Notre Dame when they needed to fly down the field on special teams on the kickoff and then get a stop on defense. I think that the minute that happened, I knew that they were going to lose. Immediately, I knew that they were done, because a team is immediately distracted when something stupid like that happens. It's awful that was the way that it went down.
Well, look, I thought that, to wrap things up for me on Notre Dame before I get to finally and talk here about A&M.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I know that you don't want to talk about execution, but Joe, I got to be real with you. I thought the lack of execution on some of these situations in the secondary were really bad. I mean, they were really bad.
Look, I get that, but at the same time, Blake, the man who's responsible for orchestrating the execution and coaching it and instilling the principles needs to get most of the criticism for the performance.
Yeah, fair, but when have you not run cover 3 in high school? When has 2 safeties not passed off crossing routes? I mean, I get what you're saying, but you can't be in the same coverage and not know a deep drag's coming, and at some point that they're not on the sidelines telling you what to do. Because I cannot be convinced that Ash or Marcus Freeman aren't telling them on the sidelines what needs to be accomplished. I do think, and we're going to have to see how this happens when Notre Dame plays USC, because they got a really good wide receiver core their damn selves. If you have some of those same problems, like you had versus Miami and like you had versus A&M, you got to start asking the question, is it play calling or is it some execution situations? Are you not teaching it? Maybe you're right. Maybe it is a situation where you're not teaching it, and those guys aren't able to pick it up. But I got to get to this too. The end of the game, I know everybody wants to talk about the hold, and quite frankly, it's a missed call. It is a missed call that the officials made right there on the 4th and goal and the play to the tight end.
Yeah.
The thing is that you can – this is where what I've seen and want to talk about or say. Yes, that's true. All of that's true. What about the other 35 points that you gave up before that? You were in too many situations where you gave up the football when you shouldn't have. I don't know if Notre Dame's still not the better team. Let me just say that. I still ironically think Notre Dame is the better team. But we talked about this on Tuesday or Monday when we talked about this game. That is a signature win for Mike Elko, and the one that A&M needed. And Joe, I got to be real with you. Either one or two things starts happening here. Either A&M starts finding a stride and they start doing some really good things with Reed and this wide receiver core, or it was just a little bit of a fugazi. We'll figure that out. But that was a massive signature win on the road in South Bend last night.
I'm rolling my eyes.
I mean, it is.
No, I agree with what you're saying, but I'm remembering now back to when we previewed this game on Monday. And it was, I'm remembering this conversation now. And it's all coming back to me, where we said, how crazy is it that Mario Cristobal couldn't get a signature establishing win at Miami? And he finally does. And that is the catalyst for their success. It just has to be against Notre Dame. And then now, as we brought up, Elko needed his signature win. He needed his big program establishing win on the road. You're playing a messy game. You make a lot of defensive mistakes. You're getting run all over, but you still find a way to finish and pull the thing out and win by 1. You take advantage of the opportunity that was presented to you when your opponent made a million mistakes and allowed for you to win the game. You didn't collapse. You finished. It's really annoying that now Notre Dame this year, that's what they are. That is how they stand in the landscape. I really don't think that they're going to get into the playoff. I think it's highly unlikely. They would need a lot of things to go their way, and they need to finish 10-2, obviously. But it's wild to think that there's potential for A&M and Miami to go to the playoff because of early season wins against Notre Dame, because their coaches got their signature wins against Ed D.
And listen, you're going to laugh and you're going to tell me I'm an idiot. Joe, if I told you this about A&M, so I want you to listen to me. You better be careful with Taylor Green. They're not a better team than you. They are not. However, Ole Miss had to get out of there after this dude ran all over them. Ran all over them. You got to go there. And I'm just going to tell you, as someone who's been there, I promise you, I have seen national title teams go in there and lose when they only have 5 wins. I've seen it. Don't play around with them. I'm
not worried about Notre Dame's run defense, because their run defense has been the most effective part of their game.
It ain't got shit to do with what they're doing in between the tackles. This kid, Joe, just go watch him.
All right. Here's the thing, though, Blake. As athletic and as explosive as Taylor Green is, that kid makes some of the worst passing mistakes and has some of the worst accuracy.
Have you seen him this year?
Yeah, I have. I think that Taylor Green is one of the most misjudged quarterbacks in college football. He can be one of the most overrated players. There are some people. He's a great athlete, tremendous athlete.
All right, don't play with him.
I'm not saying that it's a lock that Notre Dame wins. I don't feel overly threatened.
You better not disrespect the Razorbacks. They knock off somebody every year.
I just did.
What if Sam Pittman keeps his job by beating Marcus Freeman?
I will not show up for this show if that happens. You will do an hour and a half solo. I will not be here because I will be on a train going to another state to live a new identity. I will quit media if that happens.
It's not going to happen. I just got to press you on it. All right. Yeah. We got a lot more games we need to get to this. Get here.